Ensure the personalized attention you deserve with a luxury vacation package from Delta Vacations and the Lifestyle Collection featuring luxury. You'll fly in the comfort of first class, receive VIP transfers to a luxurious hotel, and earn up to 7,500 bonus miles in addition to credited flight miles with the Sky Miles program. For reservations and information, visit deltavacations.com or contact a travel agent.
Trip to London. We are here for the royal wedding. Today we are actually with Lynn Kennedy, who is the general manager of Whitehall, which is actually a palace in London. And one of the rooms that is used by the royal family for celebrations is the banquet house, the ballroom and the banquet house. And today we are with, like I said, Lynn Kennedy, and she's going to talk to us about the building itself, the trends that she sees coming up in the UK for weddings, and just everything that's beautiful and royal about this facility.
This was built in 1622 for King James I, and he wanted to make sure that he could entertain in style, show off, if you like. He'd come from Scotland, and he'd entertained in a rickety old place, and then when that burnt down, it was his opportunity to build this magnificent place, and he used it for most of his life. And when he died and his son came to the throne, his son noticed that up there was a blank space, and he'd met Peter Paul Rubens, and he commissioned him to paint 9 ceiling paintings which would glorify the life and death of James I. And the middle one is called the Apotheosis, and it shows James I being lifted up to heaven. And the paintings are so good that although they've been restored over the years, they're actually in fantastic condition. They like events. When I first started doing events here in 1990, the curator said, the minute we see that there's damage to the ceiling, you're going to stop doing them. Well, the thing was, it loved it. It loves hot, wet breath, and it needs to be kept moist. And what's better to keep a thing moist than to have plenty of people talking?
Right.
Because that's what this place is about. It's about enjoying yourself, having a good time and chatting, and the royals know that, and they use it. The Queen and Prince Philip used it for their 50th wedding anniversary. The royal family are great patrons of charities, and whenever they can, they come along to events in all of the historical palaces to patronise their charity.
So this is actually part of the route for the wedding, is just outside these windows.
Whitehall.
Exactly. And you have a group that's in tomorrow. I
do. I have a group of our American cousins who are coming to have breakfast and enjoy the route. It's a mini second, isn't it, when you see a procession go through? But they're usually quite lovely processions with the horses and the soldiers and the carriages of the different members of the royal family. So, and we get it twice. We get it when she goes up as Miss Catherine Middleton, and when she comes back as Prince William's wife. I don't know what she's going to be called.
We don't know either.
No, which is going to be quite interesting. May get that tonight.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about the fact that you can rent now, obviously, royal palaces.
Yeah.
How new is that?
It's certainly for weddings, it's only the last 5 years. But I suppose this was one of the first, the banqueting house was one of the first functions venues. It was the only royal palace that could be rented at the time. And that's about 18 years. And we quickly followed that with Hampton Court Palace, Kensington Palace, Tower of London, and Kew Palace to some extent, although that's very tiny. Mm-hmm. But the Queen had her 80th birthday party at Kew, and that seats 24 people. So it's very intimate, very tiny.
So do you do a lot of special events within this facility?
We do. We do, in a good year, 150. We don't do any more. In a recession year, 110 to 120. We can incorporate 400 to dine in the main hall, 550 for a party, have a wedding, which the new licenses have really broadened our horizons. You can have 200 marry in the Undercroft, or 400 marry up here if you like, or the guests at a wedding anyway. I mean, I'm noticing that weddings tend to be smaller. When we first started, just wedding receptions, because that's all we could do, the Asian market was probably a bit too big for here. And then gradually 400 came, and now quite often it's 300 or 200. And they do amazing things. They build walkways, they cover the place in white carpet. Flowers just have to be seen to be believed.
Right.
I tend to think the food is probably the secondary consideration in all of this sort of beauty.
The beauty, exactly.
But it does look wonderful. And the thing is, it's brought in the morning, it's gone straight after the function. And then we sit like this in a empty room. And
With a beautiful ceiling.
we open to the public.
Yeah. So what is it like to have the royal family here for a function, all the process that goes into that?
Yeah, it's quite arduous. Obviously, there's security considerations. There's protocol that says that the guest should be seated before the royal person comes into the room. Unfortunately, it doesn't always happen. There are latecomers, but London traffic's not the best, however you plan.
Especially this week.
Yeah. Well, this week's horrendous. I mean, they're closing roads as we speak.
I know.
But when a royal person comes, there's the police recce the place. They bring sniffer dogs in to make sure nobody's put anything here. There are police outside. Generally, we're much more low-key. We have a guy in a royal household uniform, but he's just to meet and greet. So the security level is much higher. And so it should be. It really should be, because there are lots of people who wish lots of groups bad. So it's a bit more onerous. And certainly when Her Majesty the Queen comes, you have to provide the name of everybody who's going to be in the building, whether they're guests or whether they're cleaners or whatever. So it's more work, but it enhances an event to have a royal patron. It really does.
So the food and everything, is there certain wait staff that will only wait on certain members of the family? How does that?
I think we don't generally do it like that, and I'm not a caterer, as I've told you, but we tend to have, you need to speak English or speak the language of the royal, because it's not just our royal family that come here, it's foreign ones. But and you need to be presentable, and we've got a lot of rules and regulations for caterers, insisting on certain lengths of skirt or trousers or appearance. You can't. They have to have a uniform. You can't all dress them all different. Even if it's black and white, it just looks odd if you've got one in a skirt, one in trousers, one to the ground, one up here. Right. And certainly for the royal family, you'd need to. The waiters and waitresses will be security cleared.
Okay, sure. So behind us we have the throne.
You do. You do.
And you did say to us earlier that the throne is actually removed for events.
The furniture can be removed, but not the throne dais. Now that's the symbol of the Queen's ownership of the banqueting house, which is all that's left of Whitehall Palace, as you said. And in any palace you go to, that belongs to the Queen, and our historic five are certainly like that. Lots of rooms have got a throne dais, whether it's yellow or red or green. The furniture can be removed because it's not contemporary with the room.
Lynn, can you tell us a little bit about the protocol involved with bringing a private event into the space?
You need to book the event. We need to vet you and make sure that you can pay for a start, and I mean that's being really commercial, but we get no help from government, and therefore every penny that we make goes back into keeping the building in splendid condition, and it takes a lot. Then you have to secure your caterer and sign up to the rules and regulations. For example, you can't have naked flame in this room because of the ceiling. You need to, a lot of people have big stage sets. They have to make sure how they bring them into the room. There is no lift here, so everything is brought up the stairs. The stairs take a fearful battering, so we've just had to do a stair protocol, believe it or not.
Wow.
There's also health and safety. There's also risk assessments, method statements, how you're going to do things. The gallery is a great space because it's used for lighting a lot, and again, they have to be battened down and tied in case they fall over the top. But to some extent, the client's not really aware of too much of that because the responsibility is with whoever they choose to do their lighting and their sound and their catering and their flowers and whatever. The Historic Royal Palaces have chosen to work with outside contractors. So nobody's tied here, nobody has preference, so it gives an opportunity for a lot of people to work. And that's it's great for the client because you've got a good choice, and you know, I mean, you might not always get on with one person, but then you can see that you like that person. Oh yes, I'll let them do my flowers. I like what they do. But then the responsibility for all the sort of nitty-gritty bits are with the contractor that's chosen. And there's a big market for wedding planners over here.
Is there really?
Yeah, because say your wedding's 400 people. It's quite a lot to do place cards, place settings. The other thing I don't generally have here is what we call free seating, which is people can sit wherever they like. So we insist generally that people are allocated a table. So therefore, in the Undercroft downstairs, there'll be a table with place cards on, telling you what your place is. Or at the worst, an easel with a board up that says, you know, who's on your table and all that sort of thing. I don't like that, but, you know, to each his own. It's more corporate than private.
Yes, yes.
Can you tell us how much it costs to rent the space, for instance, on a Saturday evening?
Saturday evening is a tad under £13,000 plus value-added tax, which is currently 20%. So it's 13,000 plus 20%. For that, you get the building from 8 o'clock in the morning right through till 1 o'clock the following morning, which is when our licence runs.
Okay.
And currently we've got 17 weekend bookings, and the financial year's just started, so I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's excellent.
Yeah. And then we've got all the weekly stuff as well, the corporate stuff and association stuff.
So, and you were speaking earlier that you even take part in some of what we consider bridal shows in the UK to promote the venue, which is, you actually enjoy doing them and have fun doing them?
Yeah, I really like generally it's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday over the Valentine weekend, and it is a happy time.
It's a 3-day, is it a 3-day show?
It's a 3-day show.
Oh, wow.
It's a 3-day show. I generally do at least 2 of them, just because I like doing them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's great meeting people who've got something to celebrate. There's so much that you don't celebrate these days.
Right.
And this is why this royal wedding is so great for us.
Yeah.
You know, it really has lifted everybody. People who profess not to be interested,
They are interested.
suddenly they are.
They are.
I'm excited myself, and I'm a bit blasé about these things. I've seen quite a few. But, you know, this one, yes, I'm really getting excited about it.
It's been fascinating for us to watch Americans and how excited we are. It's on the news constantly.
Yeah, I had an audience with James I the other night, which is one of the things we do with a professional actor. And there were lots of Americans, and most of them were planning to be outside Buckingham Palace at 4 o'clock yesterday morning for the rehearsal.
I saw that on TV, that they were actually doing the rehearsal.
Yeah. So I think it's great, but I really, really embrace that because I think, you know, you guys could show us a thing or two about entering into the spirit of things.
Well, I think that you guys are showing us a lot.
Well, great.
So then, obviously this wedding is definitely going to set some trends, as did the wedding back in 1981. There are some things, though, where we're dealing with tradition and then also modernization. And there's some new things that are going to happen at this wedding that haven't been done before, bringing them a little bit more modern, but yet not losing that traditional aspect.
Yeah, you won't ever lose the traditional aspect, principally because it's politics as well.
Right.
But after the 1981 wedding, and I see no reason to believe it won't be the same, the dress was copied all over the place. The hair was copied all over the place, and I suspect that might happen again.
The flowers too.
Yes, the flowers got longer and
They did.
yes, because currently the flowers that I'm seeing are like a little bunch.
Yeah.
Whereas,
Much tighter.
Yeah, it is much tighter. Whereas personally, I like the loose look, and I'm hoping that she'll get. Now we know that Shane Connolly's doing flowers, they'll be spectacular. They really will.
So when you see some things that are different, like you're starting to see a move away from place cards and moving towards more of a poster board with their seated assignments on them.
Yeah, I don't like that.
You don't like that?
No,
Is that
but
that's just too? Is that too fast tracking into
Yeah,
trends?
it's okay, but and a lot of corporates do it because they're a different purpose. They're there to sort of do good for their company or whatever, or their association, and it's very much not about fun; it's about networking,
Right.
that sort of thing.
Right.
But a wedding is it's about having fun. It's about uniting two families,
Right.
and I think the formality of the place cards is. We won't get to see how the banquet's done at Buckingham Palace, but maybe
You're not
in 10
going?
years' time. No. No. I've been to Buckingham Palace a couple of times. It's very beautiful.
Yes,
very
it is.
beautiful. The carpets have to be seen to be believed. Absolutely gorgeous. You certainly don't. Your feet don't hurt when you walk on those.
Right, exactly.
But they do on these. But trends, less people. The Asian market seems to have shrunk a lot in terms of the guests. They've still got married, but the number of guests is going down, as it is at most events. And that must be quite worrying for caterers and things like that. But trying to think what else might happen. Certainly, there's an upturn in the market, thank goodness.
Yes.
And there's only so long you can go without entertaining.
Yeah. People like to celebrate.
Yeah, they do.
You know?
I mean,
And they
weddings.
need that connection.
Pardon?
They need that
Oh,
connection.
yeah, they do, yeah. The weddings have kept us going, to be frank. Private money has kept us going. Now the corporates and the associations are coming back. And that's good as well, because it's a different sort of... you don't have such an involvement with them. With a wedding, you become their new best friend.
Are you finding that couples coming and celebrating here are less formal, maybe, than what you saw a few years back?
Yeah, all sorts, really. Those that get married in church or synagogue or chapel tend to still do the formalities, but those that have their wedding here tend to be less formal. We still have the altar and the pews, you know, but we don't have, obviously, you're not allowed in a secular ceremony to have any religious readings or songs.
Oh, very interesting.
Yeah. So it tends to be informal before you start.
Sure.
And then the informality is carried on into dinner.
Much shorter, I would imagine, as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm doing a wedding in December of two friends of mine, a civil ceremony, and they're going to have a party rather than a sit-down meal with lots of different country foods in stalls all the way round, which should be nice.
So is it dictated by, is it law that you can't have religious readings unless if you're in a chapel?
I'm not sure whether it's law, but it's certainly what the registrars demand, so
Really?
it possibly is. It's
So it
possibly a
possibly is.
bylaw or something like that. But I've been to a number of civil ceremonies, and I can't recall any religious connotation at all.
Interesting.
Very, very interesting. That's very different than what we have in the States.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yes, because you've been able to marry anywhere for a while.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much.
It's a
We
pleasure.
really enjoyed this.
Pleasure. Thank
Pleasure.
you. Thanks for coming to see me.
Thank you.